Hello and welcome to round 14 of Grand Prix Washington, D.C. I'm Ben Swartz, joined here in the booth by Rashad Miller, and we have Jason Ford on Sneak and Show facing off against Riley Curran on the right-hand side of your screen with Elves combo.
Elves! How are you always the lucky one that gets to cast with
My
me
ears hurt.
when elves are on the battlefield?
Say that again, I didn't hear you.
Elves!
My ears.
And we got the blackboard of Llanowar Elves. Oh, man.
Yeah,
Beta.
turn one Llanowar Elves for Riley Curran. Perfect start for him. Draws a Wirewood Symbiote, has a Findhorn Elves, but is going to start trying to go off here with Glimpse of Nature. That's going to get spell pierced by Jason Ford.
Yeah, I was just about to say that this is going to be a race to see which combo deck can get off, do their thing first. But blue spells and Jason Ford's deck can actually interact with some of the things that that Riley Curran wants to do. Now, spell pierce, not exactly the best card against elves, but right there it actually found a good target, which was that Glimpse of Nature.
Yeah, it's good against Glimpse of Nature and Green Sun Zenith, right? In the Elves deck, at least game one.
Yeah. They're probably coming out for the next game, but or maybe not. It depends on what the game plan is.
Jason Ford actually started this tournament with a round one loss. He had no buys coming into this tournament. First round loss, and here he is. Just 2 losses to his name at 11-2 going into this penultimate round.
All right, so Riley does have another Glimpse in his hand, and it looks like he has a Wirewood Symbiote, so he can cast a lot of spells next turn. He can definitely do that, but we'll see what Jason can actually cobble together over on his side. So all it takes is a 2-card combo, and the game's almost over.
Ponder comes down for Jason. He looks at some cards. It seems like he already has the combo in hand. He's got Sneak Attack and an Emrakul. Does he have the speed necessary to execute, though?
Well, I don't know that he has the mana. He's going to have to wait a couple of turns. I didn't see any of the soul lands, like an Ancient Tomb or City of Traders, or a fast mana source. Oh, there is one of the soul lands. Another counter for the Glimpse. Look at that.
Force Will takes out Glimpse of Nature, and Riley is just going to continue playing Elves.
See, the weird thing is when you counter all of the Glimpse of Natures from the Elf deck, it just becomes this bad creature deck that plays 1/1s.
There's
and runs
2/2s.
Yeah, 1/1s and 2/2s and runs out of cards eventually.
Jason fetches with his Scalding Tarn. He's probably going to go find a Volcanic Island. And if he can peel a Lotus Petal here, he can cast Sneak Attack and activate it with Emrakul.
Also, I heard you want a Legacy open with this?
May not be a bad idea if Jason can't, couple together the attack this turn. Yeah, it's just to put the Sneaker Show out there anyway. There isn't a lot of main deck enchantment removal in the Elf deck, so there's no reason to have to wait another turn to get another land source.
Well, he's going to ponder first. He sees Gristlebrand, Emrakul, and Island. It's going to be a quick shuffle for him.
Jason's consent on waiting another turn, obviously. The Elf deck has 1 card in its hand. I don't even know what 1 card could be dangerous. Cradle's probably the best card, and that doesn't do anything. Cradle plus
Green Sun Zenith. Well, wow, Jason draws Show and Tell right off the top. So he here can play that City of Traders and cast Show and Tell.
Yeah, this is definitely the play.
Say hello to my little friend.
Yeah, it's like, yep, I got 1 card. I guess I'll put it in play. It's Emrakul versus the Wire Symbiote.
Well,
still can't think of 1 card.
Yeah. Let's attack him with my guys. Jason blocks the Nettle Sentinel with his Emrakul, takes 4.
He's going to return it to his hand with the Wire Symbiote to untap the Llanowar off. And he's going to get to replay. He's going to get to play both of the cards in his hand. One of them's the Nettle Sentinel, and he has a Dryad Arbor. So Annihilate 5. Annihilate 5 or 6?
6.
Okay, so Annihilate 6 doesn't exactly win the game just yet. But, Llanowar off and 4 isn't quite enough. I mean, that's one of the small flaws of the Sneak and Show deck is after the combo's done, the game isn't over.
Yeah, but
it's
with
usually,
Show and Tell, you get an Emrakul out, right?
Yeah, it's usually over enough.
And Jason Ford takes the first game here in round 14 of Grand Prix Washington, D.C. Really fast game.
You know what? I mean, this was going to be a fast game. We got 2 combo decks going off against each other, and neither of them really have a way to slow their opponent down. So it's going to be whoever gets their combo together first, executes it, and gets the win.
Yeah, and there's Sneak and Show. It's one of the fastest, most resilient combo decks in the format, as you saw there. It's capable of putting Emrakul of the Eon's Torn or Gristlebrand in play as early as turn 1. I mean, Jason cast it on turn 3, and it's got great card selection with a bunch of cantrips cards like Ponder and Brainstorm, and a lot of resilience with counterspells like you saw with Spell Pierce and Force of Will.
Yeah, and in that game, the resilience was used as, and stopping, the elf deck from actually going off themselves.
Yeah, and you can see the Elves deck is a combo deck based on adding a ton of Elves to the board, generating a lot of mana, and finish the game with like a Craterhoof Behemoth, in some decks a Zuri Renegade Leader. You saw in that last game that Glimpse of Nature almost allowed Riley to go off, to combo off, but both times he was countered by Jason's counterspells. And Green Sun Zenith and Natural Order can tutor out needed pieces or get finishers.
It would have been a very different game if those Glimpse of Natures actually resolved. Instead of there only being the 5 or 6 creatures on board, there would have been those creatures on board and 5 or 6 more cards left in Riley's hand, which would have been more creatures, probably a Cradle, probably then a Craterhoof Behemoth, and then probably an Attack for Lethal.
So let's take a look at these players' sideboards and see what they might bring in this matchup.
All right, so I'm looking at Riley's sideboard, and I see a Qasali's Pride Mage, which is an answer for an enchantment.
Sneak attack, perhaps?
Yep. Really, that's the only interaction that he has. He has Progenitus. He's probably going to go with the Progenitus tool set, which is the 1 Progenitus and the 1 Natural Order, because not only is Progenitus, a pretty good clock, but he can luckily have it in his hand in the face of a show and tell. There's also 4 Cabal Therapy and 3 Thoughtseize. That's going to be the main plan. The main plan is just to break up the combo and then try to win on his own terms.
You think that Jason's going to assume that Riley's going to board in those hand disruption spells and board in Leyline of Sanctity?
He's definitely thinking that the disruption is coming out. Now, a lot of the elf decks are 3-color, but when we looked at that game, I think the only thing we saw was basic forest.
Yeah.
So if he's up on the environment, he knows that the elf deck has 3 colors, and one of them is black, and the reason the black is there is so that it can interact with these combo decks. If he's not, the only way he wouldn't bring in the Leyline of Sanctity is if he wasn't aware of the environment. But this is round 14 of this tournament, so he's probably at least seen the elf deck in action, if not played against it himself. They're definitely coming in.
Well, should be an interesting game, too, as these players shuffle up and get ready for it. On the back table, you see Chaz Hinkle face off against Sam Black. But we're going to get back to the action here in Jason Ford versus Riley Curran.
Now, as far as speed of these combo decks, Jason Ford is definitely in the advantage. It's the elf deck is hard pressed to win on turn 2. It can. Very hard pressed. Turn 3 is usually where it wants to be, and which is perfect for the sideboard suite that Riley has probably gone with, where now he can use either turn 1 or turn 2 as turns to disrupt Jason's combo. And Cabal Therapy really shines here because the elf deck has a bunch of expendable creatures.
Yeah.
So usually Cabal Therapy, you get one card, the card that matters the most, and sometimes you're able to flash it back, but the elf deck can basically always flash back a Cabal Therapy.
Well, Riley's going to take a mulligan here. Looks like Jason's going to keep.
Missing a piece. Hope it shows up. Usually does so far.
You still think that Jason's advantaged here after board?
Well, after board, it depends on how much hand disruption Riley can actually come up with and how effective it ends up being. There's a lot of redundancy in the Sneak and Show deck. I mean, there's Show and Tell and there's Sneak Attack. There's Emrakul and Gristlebrand as far as the threats. And, he could have brought in a couple of Through the Breach
Yeah.
With all those things, if there are 2 copies of one of those elements, one thought seize isn't going to be enough. Usually when you're in that situation, you have to go elsewhere, like take a mana source or something.
Okay, let's see if this 6-card hand out of Riley Curran is any better. I see Cabal Therapy, a couple of lands in a natural order, along with an Elvish Visionary, and is that a Green Sun Zenith?
Doesn't look very interactive, but it's probably going to be better than any 5-card hand that you can come up with.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to see a turn 1 Cabal Therapy off of a Verdant Catacombs fetching a Bayou from Riley Curran. In the dark, what do you think he's going to name?
Either Sneak and Show.
Sneak Attack?
Or either Sneak Attack. How many times have I said that? You should tell me. You're supposed to be here.
I am here.
We're a team.
We are a team.
Either Show and Tell
or Sneak Attack.
Or Sneak Attack.
Well, if he named Show and Tell, he would have hit. Doesn't look like he hit anything.
Well, maybe we can get. We didn't actually hear what he named with Cabal Therapy. Let's find that out, because he could just be writing it down right now.
Yeah. Gristlebrand was the name.
Oh, so he goes with Gristlebrand. The thing with the blind Cabal Therapy, there's really, I guess that was the third option you really could have gone with. Emrakul isn't really the best option. But now he gets to see his hand, and I was going to say he can flashback Cabal Therapy, but the Grafdigger's Cage is going to stop that.
Yeah. Grafdigger's Cage also shuts off Green Sun Zenith.
It does. It shuts off Green Sun Zenith. It shuts off all flashback.
Pan-Glacial Worm?
It does shut off Glacier Worm. I don't know that.
No, Pan-Glacial Worm.
Yeah, Pan-Glacier Worm. I don't know that Riley's playing Pan-Glacier Worm. But that's an interesting sideboard decision, because it's really narrow as far as what... I mean, Green Sun Zenith is very good. But I think he knows about the Cabal Therapy, so that gives it a little bit of extra edge. And there's only one of those in his sideboard, I believe. So
Elvish Visionary comes down, and Jason now has the opportunity to cast Show and Tell.
Here we go. Turn 2 Show and Tell.
Happened to peel something. Looks like he got an Emrakul off the top this last turn.
Yeah, and you can see the Elf deck really can't compete when it comes to class.
Heritage Druid versus Emrakul. Which is better, do you think?
I like Heritage Druid personally, but...
That's the match.
Yeah, Emrakul gets the handshake.
Jason Ford wins a quick match, 2-0 over Riley Curran, advancing to 12-2, being put in a great position to top 8 here in Washington, D.C.
And it looks like the back match, Sam Black versus Chaz Hinkle, is... they're getting ready for a game.
Yeah. And we'll switch over to that camera here. We've got Sam Black on the right-hand side of your screen facing off against Chaz Hinkle on the left-hand side of your screen. Chaz seems to also be on a sneak and show strategy. Sam Black is on...
Looks like Esper Stoneblade? Oh, no, it's a Bant.
The Bant deck.
It's the Bant deck, but it does have 4 Force of Will. There's a lot of these Bant lists were actually foregoing Force of Will or put them in the sideboard, but Sam Black has a full 4 in his main deck.
We see a turn 1 Ponder from Chaz Hinkle on the left-hand side. Looks like he's going to keep those 3 cards on top and draw 1. Try to set up his sneak attack or show and tell combo against number 2 rated player, Sam Black.
Just making up numbers.
I am making up number 10 rated player. Why did I think he was number 2? I got really excited.
You must really like Sam Black.
Sam Black has Windswept Heath, and a Gitaxian Probe from Chaz Hinkle is going to give him the chance to take a peek at Sam Black's hand.
He gets to see if the coast is clear, and it is not at all.
What is that? Swan Song, Green Sun Zenith, Force of Will, Daze, Savannah, Misty Rainforest, and Spell Pierce in Sam Black's hand. Facing down a lot of counter magic, it's going to be tough for Chaz to quickly cast his combo.
Yeah, Swan Song is actually a great one out of the sideboard against the Storm deck, because you really don't mind giving them just the 2/2. Although, it could grind you down, but usually...
I mean, it's also insane against the sneak attack deck, right? Counter sneak attack, counter show and tell, counters counter spells. Brainstorm for Chaz here. He's going to draw 3, put 2 back. Looks like he found a pair of show and tells, making it 3 of a kind in his hand. I don't know. What do you think Chaz is going to do here? You think he's just going to continually jam into...
Yeah, that's the kind of hand he has right here. He really doesn't have any other way to play around the counter magic other than the daze, maybe the spell pierce, but really all he could do is just keep playing show and tells until one of them resolves.
So it looks like he puts back the 2 show and tells that he drew on top, or still making up his mind. Maybe
Looks
a
like
Gristlebrand and a show and tell?
Looks like he's still deciding. I don't think he wants to go with that plan. I feel like he's going to shuffle away those cards.
Okay, well, he goes ahead and ponders. Sees another Gristlebrand, along with the 2 cards he put back from Brainstorm.
Let's take a look at Sam's hand again on this little sheet of paper. We'll be having the score updated in just a moment.
But Chaz is at 19, Sam is at 20. Or 17, sorry.
Sam Black is actually playing Bant. We'll have that fixed in just a second. So this is an interesting route of play for Chaz. I'm not sure exactly what his plan is, how he plans to assemble a way to fight through a Swan Song, a Spell Pierce, a Daze. Was there also a Force of Will?
I believe so.
Yeah, all those spells are good against the way that Chaz wants to win.
Yeah, who knew counter magic was good against combo decks?
Yeah, sometimes it's not that good. Sometimes, Spell Pierce is very narrow when you look at it, and so is Swan Song, but it's not narrow at all when it's countering a sneak attack or a show and tell.
Chaz brainstorms here. He saw a Pyroclasm that he put back along with a Gitaxian Probe. I mean, Sam is giving him a lot of time here to set up his combo. I mean, even though he's got plenty of counter spells, he doesn't have any action. No Knight of the Reliquary, no Tarmogoyfs.
Yeah, and plus, I really liked just trying to force through all of the counter magic, because eventually one of those counter spells is going to be a Swan Song, and then you get a 2/2.
Yeah.
A 2/2 that Sam has to deal with eventually, not right now, but it's something.
Gitaxian Probe gets fired off for a second time this game. Chaz will get to see again Sam's hand. Green Sun Zenith, Force of Will, Daze, Spell Pierce, Swan Song, Savannah, Caracas.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same hand. Sam's pointing at the Caracas. That's the card that was actually drawn, which is also really good.
Yeah. Ooh, and Defense Grid drawn off the top from that Gitaxian Probe. Chaz has to consider whether or not he wants to play that card. Really good against Sam Black.
He can't play it. Sam has too many ways to counterspell it.
Defense Grid, 2-mana artifact. During each player's turn, each other player's spells cost 3 more to play. Really effective against counter magic. Chaz probably waiting until he can play that Ancient Tomb and have enough mana to pay for.
And speaking of Ancient Tomb, Defense Grid is the perfect turn 1 play for this Sneak and Show deck, because it really wants to, just go Ancient Tomb or even a City of Traders into Defense Grid on turn 1, and there's not a lot of. There's only one counter spell in Sam Black's deck that can interact with that. If Chaz is on the play.
Force of Will.
Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Oh, learn something new. Kidding. I already know what Force of Will is.
Okay, Defense Grid. What's Sam think about that? He's pretty.
I mean, this is similar to just jamming a show and tell when you have 3 of them in your hand.
It's even better than that, because with show and tell, Sam could counter it with Swan Song. Here he has to remove one of his other counter spells with Force of Will to counter the Defense Grid, and he removes Daze. Daze quickly losing its value here as Chaz is able to produce more and more mana every subsequent turn.
Now Sam still has a Spell Pierce and the Swan Song, and the Spell Pierce isn't that good either.
No.
Ancient Tomb, making sure of that.
To be fair, though, Chaz does need to try and find a sneak attack in order to get around that Caracas that Sam has drawn. But Sam is just slow rolling it, not playing it.
Yeah, sneak attack doesn't even help either, really, because, sneak attack.
You can sneak attack a creature at end of turn, right?
You can, but you can still wait until combat.
And then sneak attack another creature?
Yeah, I guess you could do that. I guess it does work. No, you wait
The-
two attacks.
The first one has to be an Emrakul.
Yeah, so
Right.
it has to be an Emrakul. The only way that Chaz can use sneak attack around Correct is it has to be an Emrakul, and it has to be the first one, like an end of turn Emrakul.
Yeah.
Emrakul.
Okay, so Sam Greensun Zenithing here for 2. He's looking at his options of what he wants to get out of his library.
He's looking at the Gaddock Teague, which
Yeah.
is like it's like the end of all Green Sun Zeniths once you go get that guy because you can't cast him anymore.
Gaddock Teague, boom, comes
See if-
out of Sam's deck.
Yeah, let's see if we can get Gaddock Teague out on the screen for you guys. It actually has a lot of text. It interacts very well. It's one of the few creatures that can actually interact with a lot of the combo decks because it stops everyone from playing non-creature spells that cost 4 or greater, and non-creature spells that have X in their cost, like sneak attack.
Yeah. Does not stop show and tell, though.
Doesn't stop show and tell.
Another Ancient Tomb drawn for Chaz.
Also doesn't stop that Equine Truth over in Chaz's hand.
And you think Chaz is going to try going for it here? Think he's going to try playing Defense Grid, and if Sam picks a fight over it, if not, he'll cast a sneak or a show and tell. No, it looks like he just wants to go straight up for a show and tell, using all of his blue mana to do so.
I feel like this is also a bait. Just, hey, do you have another counter spell?
But he knows he's got the Swan Song, right?
I mean, he'll take a 2/2 right now. If show and tell gets Chaz a 2/2 and Sam nothing.
But I'm saying that Chaz could have cast Defense Grid first, and then cast Show and Tell and put Emrakul or Gristlebrand into play.
Show and tell still isn't very good against the Caracas that Chaz knows that Sam Black has. Right?
He'd at least be able to get Gristlebrand and draw 7 and try to find a sneak attack. And then the following turn, Echoing Truth and sneak attack.
Yeah, that's a pretty good line.
Well, let's see what Sam wants to do here. Spell Pierce won't really do it because of the untapped mana that Chaz has.
Spell Pierce is a shock. I mean, it deals 2 damage to Chaz.
But Swan Song is what's going to come down for Sam. Counter target instant sorcery or enchantment. Its controller gets a 2/2 flying bird token. We'll get
So,
that.
whose responsibility is it to bring the bird tokens?
Wizards of the Coast, because we've got tokens at the feature match.
Well, I don't know
table.
that we have any Swan Song bird tokens, unfortunately. But I feel like if you're playing
See?
Swan Spawn, oh, I guess we did have a bird token. Excuse me.
I spent all last night drawing those up. That's my masterwork. You can find them in the Museum of Modern Art.
Yeah, we'll send it to the Smithsonian after this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It flies, as you can see, as it says fly.
Knight of the Reliquary comes down for Sam Black. Currently a 4/4.
More importantly, I'm curious as to what sweet lands this guy can go and get. Looks like there's only a Dryad Arbor that's left. Everything else just taps for mana. He has some wastelands. I mean, that's a long-term plan, to actually try to wasteland all of the ancient tombs.
Okay, well, Chaz is going to go for another show and tell. Sam going to do something about this.
Well, he only has a Daze and a spell Pierce, so he declines to show anything.
Okay, and Sam's going to use Caracas to return Gristlebrand to Chaz's hand. In response, Chaz is going to activate Gristlebrand, draw 7 cards, lose 7 life, hoping to peel out of this.
So he drew another show and tell. Picked up some land. I'm not sure if he played a land for this turn or not.
Well, this was during his end step, so he's first going to have to discard and pass the turn back to Sam.
Decisions. Probably not going to. Maybe discard one of the Gristlebrand, because obviously you don't need 2. Looks like he's considering discarding the Emrakul, because he's going to go back into his library anyway. Oh, these are the cards he's
Yeah,
keeping.
I think those are the cards he's keeping. He first needs to return the Gaddock Teague before he can cast the sneak attack. And he uses sneak attack with Emrakul. That's his route to victory here.
Yeah, that red card, is that a Pyroclasm or is it a Pyroblast?
Pyroclasm.
So Pyroclasm is a way to get rid of the Gaddock Teague
Yeah.
for good, because Echoing Truth isn't really the most effective way to deal with it forever. Also, Gaddock Teague is being held back by that bird token, so that bird is actually protecting Chaz's life very well.
Yeah, I mean, Chaz is probably going to have to trump block with it the following turn if Sam attacks in with Neither Reliquary.
Well, Knight's only a 4/4, and I don't know that Sam would have to have a fetch land in order to make it a 5/5 before combat happens. Now, obviously, if Chaz decides to block Gaddock Teague if both creatures attack, he won't be able to use his Ancient Tombs anymore.
Right.
But he has plenty of mana because I think, did he have another? No, he doesn't have an Ancient Tomb in his Choice City. Oh, he does have. Yeah, he has a City of Traders in his hand that he can play along with the Lotus Petal, which will be able to play around the days in the spell Pierce. So this is a big decision. He also has the Echoing Truth that can bounce the Knight of Reliquary. I would have blocked first.
Yeah.
Because because that knight is just going to be a 4/4, and I don't think there's much danger to going down to 1 life.
Well, Sam's going to use the Spell Pierce here. Chaz is going to pay with Ancient Tomb, and then Daze comes out for Sam Black.
So now he's still at 1 life, except now the Gaddock Teague is still in play.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that play, but
I mean, Chaz is not in good shape right now. He has to go for Show and Tell, and Show and Tell does not win the game, especially with the active Caracas.
Force of Will drawn for Chaz, and that's going to be game. Sam Black wins the match 2-1 here in round 14 of Grand Prix Washington, D.C., advancing to 12-2, putting himself in a good position to top 8 this event. What a match.
Yeah.